Breaking news. The Whale is setting new records for limited theater release right now. The Brendan Fraser Revolution has begun.
Awesome. That makes me so happy.
Batgirl, viva la revolution.
I'm so excited. I want to see that movie so bad.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Popcorn Bucket List, the show that is oddly going to be very sports-centric today.
That's right.
Yeah, we a little bit of backstory here. This is our very special guest, Mr. Matt Metzler, college roommate of mine. We had a little bet. Actually, throughout pretty much most of college, we always had a bet on the Vikings-Packers games.
And most of the time I won them when we were in college. But
debatable. You don't have any data to back that up or prove it. But it used to be we would just bet like the weekly 12-pack or something like that. We upped the ante this season, and we said whoever lost had to read a statement prepared by the other. So knowing that, and we're definitely going to be talking about the Vikings-Packers game only and not the Lions game that just ended like 5 minutes before we started recording here.
Oh, I'd prefer to talk about
here,
that,
Mr.
whatever.
Matt, is your statement as
All right. What?
We didn't plan that through very well. All right. So, yeah, if you would please just look into camera one and tell us.
Oh, I forgot my reading glasses. I don't know if I'll be able to read this. Okay.
That's okay.
Okay. I, Matt Metzler, under sound mind and body, do solemnly proclaim that the Vikings are the most superior team in the NFC North, even better than the Packers. I will admit that that's fair so far this year.
I said what's on the paper, nothing more, nothing less. Just read the statement.
On a side note, I believe and always have believed that Aaron Rodgers is only as good as he is because he sold his soul to the devil and his hair is stupid. Okay. There's some truth to this statement. I won't deny
There's a
it.
lot of truth to that statement.
Well, the Vikings have been better than the Packers this year. I'm not going to deny that.
Good.
But
And Aaron Rodgers' hair has always been stupid.
you know,
Long or short, so it's
always sucked.
Yep.
the guy can do whatever he wants. He makes more money than I will ever dream of ever having.
That's not the argument being made here. You can keep that as a souvenir, by the way, if you want.
Hang it up.
But speaking of sports movies, obviously we couldn't have someone who's a big sports fan as you are without talking sports movies. So without really getting into any specific topic or whatnot, let's just talk what some of our favorite sports movies are. I feel like the best way to start off, Matt, let us know. What is your, if you had to pick a sports movie that is your favorite, what would it be?
Well, I mean, there's a couple different options there. I want probably an underrated sports movie, and I doubt, you guys might have seen this before, but it's called The Greatest Game Ever Played.
Golf one.
It's a golf one.
Yep.
And it's directed by none other than the late, great Bill Paxton, starring Shia LaBeouf. It's actually based on a true story. And, you know, there's some fiction to it, but it was the 1913 U.S. Open. Now, back in those days, obviously, it was the British versus the Americans when it came to golf championships.
Yep.
And probably arguably the greatest British golfer of all time, Harry Vardon, who was Francis Ouimet's idol, and that's who Shia LaBeouf played, was Francis Ouimet. He was going to play one more U.S. Open, or at least he's going to play another one after a 13-year absence because he won in 1900 and comes back. And that year's Open, U.S. Open, was in Brookline, Massachusetts, actually across the street from where Francis Ouimet grew up and lived. And by today's standards, Francis Ouimet, who was an amateur, would have been probably about 100 to 1 odds, if not more than that, to win the U.S. Open.
Yep.
And as an amateur, he won it. Amateurs, especially back in those days, there was classes when it came to golf. If you were middle income or lower, you didn't golf.
Yep.
If you were upper class, you would golf. And if you were rich, you'd be an amateur because you didn't play for money. Amateurs don't make money off of tournaments.
Yep.
If you were professional, you were kind of rugged. You know, it was just you'd want to be an amateur because that means you came from money.
Yep.
And if you played golf, you pretty much did come from money. And it's just a great story. You go back to, kind of gives you look back into Harry Vardon's, what he grew up in. He was a poor boy from the Isle of Jersey. But overall, that was a really good movie. I'm always a sucker for comedies. I love Benchwarmers, even though that's one of my. I can quote that. I've seen it probably at least 50 times. You can find a good movie in any sport.
Yeah.
Yep. I haven't seen a lot of soccer movies, but there's always good hockey movies. Slapshot featured a few Minnesota guys.
Yep. Well, even basketball. Like I like the original Space Jam.
Oh my gosh!
I love that movie.
I'm a big Michael Jordan guy. He was a little bit before my time. He retired from the Wizards in 2003, and that was his final retirement. But love the original Space Jam. I have not seen the new one. I refuse to watch the new one. No.
Don't need to.
You can skip that one.
Yep.
I'm going to talk about a sport that I love. Obviously, you guys know me. I'm an auto racing kind of fan. I do think there are a few out there that do, I think, properly represent the sport and I think put it in a good light. Surprisingly, Days of Thunder, I think, is actually one of those. Okay. A good Tom Cruise movie. You could skip all the Nicole Kidman date stuff or whatever. But what's funny is almost every plot line in that movie was inspired by a real life thing that happened in NASCAR. Mm-hmm. Tom Cruise actually sat down with Rick Hendrick and with a lot of guys and they wrote the story from that. One of the most famous scenes in there is when they're like basically racing those rental cars down the street and everything. Unfortunately, that specifically didn't happen. But Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Bodine, which essentially these two characters are based off of, did have to ride a rental car to a restaurant to talk to the head of NASCAR to like make peace. Because like the head of NASCAR, these guys were crashing each other too much. Was like, listen here, you two stop or I'm going to stop you. Like that actually happened in real life and they were actually forced to ride in a rental car and everything. I even just found out recently, there's a scene with a stripper in it. That actually happened in real life after a racer won his first race. Pretty much everything in there is pretty well represented. If you want a little bit more comedic take, one that I think doesn't get talked about enough, Stroker Ace. This is a Burt Reynolds movie way back in his prime. Okay. So for those of you who are Burt Reynolds fans, I think so this is late model stock cars, pretty I want to say 70s. I want to say
was this before Longest Yard or was this after Longest
Yard? I believe this was after Longest Yard.
But before Smokey.
It might have been before Smokey even too. Okay. I can't remember exactly. It was right around that same time though. But there is a pretty funny scene in there where he's sponsored by like a chicken company, and so like they have to like do a promo shoot with him in a chicken costume or whatever, and due to some like scheduling thing, they like did it right before a race, which would never happen nowadays, by the way. So half his pit crew is still in their like chicken costumes when they're like changing his tire, and he's still got like the top half of the chicken body with the helmet on because they were way laxed on safety back then, especially. Right. So those are a couple. I got to represent my racing.
I'm surprised you bring up Talladega Nights.
I actually don't.
You don't like that one?
I don't like it as a representative of the sport.
Okay.
It does have funny moments, don't get me wrong.
So it's good as a parody, but not as a...
No, I wouldn't call it good as a parody either.
No? Okay.
No. Well, because the racing stuff especially... So, like, I could go deep dive into this, but the number one thing I would say is when they're at Talladega, every time he passes someone, he's shifting gears. That
doesn't happen.
No. Right. No, you pretty much go into fourth gear and you floor it. It's one of the few tracks where you can just floor it all the way around and not have to worry about shit.
Or like the racing backwards or getting out of the car and running.
Oh, don't even get me started on any of those scenes, man. Don't even get me started now.
So would you call Cars a racing movie?
Cars is a racing movie.
Oh, that's a great point. That's a good one.
That is another one that has kind of an inaccurate
I don't know.
I
feel like if you stick your tongue out and you cross the finish line,
I'm not even talking about that. Okay, we're talking about animated cars, so sure, whatever. But actually, to your point, once you were trying to cross the start finish line, NASCAR doesn't care what part of your car is actually sticking out first, as long as your car crosses first. But my main, you know what? I'm not going to get into it. We got other movies we got to talk about. I'll maybe do a deep dive some other time. But I'm curious, what other comedies do you guys like? Because you mentioned, a golf movie, and I'm like, there's like great golf comedies too. What's it about golf and such good sports movies? Well, Caddyshack is a classic.
Caddyshack is great. I think it's just because you get a chance, like they mock, the elite of golf. Because when everybody thinks of golf, they think of country clubs. They think of people that are
kind of snooty,
stuck up.
Snooty, stuck up would be a good.
I couldn't wear this outfit to go golfing.
No.
I mean, you could. You'd just be judged.
Yeah, I would be judged.
I was a member at a golf club for 2 years, and there were definitely people like Ted Knight's character in Caddyshack. But it's just fun to make fun of. It's fun to parody it. But I mean, Caddyshack's great. Happy Gilmore's great because, again, stuffed up shirt of Shooter McGavin. That's That's a classic.
You really want to hear me do a hot take, though, here?
Yeah.
I actually don't disagree with Shooter. I disagree with some of his methods that he does, but I don't disagree with how early on he's like, I've paid my dues. I've been in here for how long? It's my turn to win this because I've earned it, because I've fought for this. And then new rookie comes in.
Right. But, I mean, the other thing is, though, is golf is also a lot more welcoming to new members. Like, there are people like, I don't mind when a new golfer starts because it brings in more people to golf.
Yep.
What's frustrating is when you have people that don't understand the rules of golf. That's probably
And I think that's where maybe Shooter would be coming from then,
right.
too. Is
but,
like,
I mean,
there's an etiquette to it.
You see the etiquette that Happy Gilmore was doing. You'd never see that on the actual tour.
Unless it's the Waste Management Tour.
Right.
Or that Waste Management
Wait, is that a thing or did you
whatever?
just make a joke?
No, that's the thing.
Is that a thing?
No, so, okay, on
have to look that up
16 at Waste Management Open, it's a par 3.
Yeah.
If you sink a hole-in-one, they call it the stadium hole because they actually have bleachers going around the hole.
Oh, yeah.
So I think they fit 10,000 people in there.
Wow.
And Tiger Woods hit a hole-in-one in 1997, his rookie year. The place went nuts. Beer was getting thrown around. Like,
it's like a wild thing.
It's like a rock concert, pretty much.
I find it interesting you bring that up because I think we talk about sports movies that are based off true stories, but what about movies that are fiction that then become reality? Because the way you're describing that, because Happy Gilmore came out early, 94, 95, something
96,
like that?
I think.
96.
Yep.
So like a year before this. And then all of a sudden a very similar, you talk about Tiger Woods, rookie, first year, sinks a hole-in-one, reinvents the game, etiquette. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and you look at a lot of comedy golf movies too. They're all fiction, but they all come from real life experiences.
Yep.
Because again, Ryan probably wouldn't wear that to a golf course. If it's a nice golf course, I'll wear a button-up polo, but I'll wear like a Nike shirt and gym shorts to the golf course, and I don't get second look. But I'm also decent at it where I can back it up if I need to.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I might be lacking in that part.
You
I
know
can
what-
drive pretty well, but that's about it.
The golf cart or the ball?
Yeah, I was going to say, I can drive the golf cart pretty well. I can't drive.
yeah.
But with that, let's move into the weekly preview, talk about a few things that are coming out this weekend. I'm going to be honest. There's about 4 movies we're going to talk about. 75% of them is going to be focused on one of them.
100%.
We're gonna be a little biased here today, but that's because there's been a lot of talk, a lot of hype going into this one. So Friday, December 16th, Return to Pandora is here. Avatar: Way of the Water coming to theaters. I would say the big story around this movie is the runtime. Let's be honest.
Ooh, what's the
it's
runtime?
the elephant in the room. From what I've read, officially 3 hours and 10 minutes.
Oh.
So you're going to be out of a bag of popcorn typically about 20 minutes in. Most theaters
Not
don't
me.
allow-
I'm done by previews.
I would say most theaters don't allow you refills. So yeah, you're
Marshall
kinda,
6 does.
If as
So
long as
we'll
it's
shout
large popcorn,
out. Yep.
free refills.
We'll get into that. Yeah. I usually am done with my popcorn by the time the previews
So
are
yeah,
done,
you're
so-
kind of screwed then if you can't get a free refill.
Yeah, so look for theaters for that. And also a big bathroom, because probably going to have to take a break somewhere in between there.
Yep.
I forgot to link into it or look into it here, but James Cameron did jokingly say there is like a point in the movie that he would suggest if you had to go to the bathroom, this is the point to do it. So
I would say if a movie's that long, they need to go back to the old days where
The
they actually
intermission?
had an intermission.
Yep.
yeah, that could have been that's a really good point. That could have been really something cool here.
Because when, speaking of Quentin Tarantino, when he
This
had
had
the
an
Hateful Eight,
intermission.
that had
It's like half
when
the
you watched
runtime
when you
of
watched it on
Avatar.
film. I had the intermission. Did it have it in the digital release? I don't think it. I don't know.
It had. It definitely. I think I remember it having a break in there where if the intermission was going to happen, it was going to happen there. I feel like
It was
I remember
right at the floor scene.
Yeah. I feel like I remember there being some word saying intermission, but there wasn't like an extended pause or anything.
Yeah.
Because I know
in the digital one.
I know I've got a DVD at home of The Great Race. That one had an intermission. That was about halfway through, and then obviously Sound of Music. That one definitely had one.
Yep. That one
I
has one.
think they got married, then they did the intermission, which was perfect timing. Then they come back, then the Nazis show up, and then
Well, I remember the
It really- yeah, it's kind of
Titanic.
awkward.
I remember the Titanic VHS. You had VHS 1, and then you
Yeah,
had to
this-
put VHS 2 in.
that was the same thing with Sound of Music. Yeah, you got 2 VHSs.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Marshall Update. As you know, we had the R&R combo, which was the large drink and the Reese's. Now we're changing it up. Just for a limited time only, you're getting a large drink and a large popcorn. It could be Coke, Diet Coke, Cherry Coke, Dr. Pepper, Mellow Yellow, Sprite. We got it all. This is the perfect time for you, maybe your friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, family, whatever, to get a large drink and a large popcorn. And with that, we'll see you at the movies.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
They kind of did a weird flux of like long movies, then it went down to shorter, and now we're kind of seeing some of those things get a little bit longer again. Not all
what
movies.
you're saying is I just have to wait this out until we get back to a 2-hour, nice 2-hour runtime.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
But
It flows.
But the problem is that's the other thing is the way it's been going lately. Longer movies are going to have a tough attraction because people don't exactly want to kill 3 hours. They don't have 3 hours to kill.
Yeah, it's I don't even know if it's so much that they people don't want to see this movie for 3 hours. It's that they don't necessarily have time to see this 3-hour movie.
Well, especially too are you really going to go? Can they even show it past an 8 o'clock showtime?
Yeah, I think there are a few. Yeah,
they do.
You know, or a 9 o'clock.
Looking
showtime.
ahead to here, there's going to be some 9 o'clock showtimes on specific nights that usually there are 9 o'clock showtimes.
Because I mean, you're going to start at 9, end at midnight. You know,
Yeah.
well, and then it's even going to be longer than that because previews.
Yep.
It's at least 12:30. Yeah, but this isn't the first time. I remember when the Batman came out; those ones would start around 9:30, so they'd come out right around midnight.
Yep.
And everything because that was a 2.5-hour one when they had 9 o'clock showings, but. I think that's kind of an interesting segue to go into what I think is the main conversation about this, the box office. Is it going to make enough to justify? James Cameron has so many plans for this universe. He's already written the script for 3 and 4 and says he has plans for others.
Yep.
I just think
he's going to need to really break it in.
How much did this cost? How much did they pay?
I for sure it's going to be mid to high 9 figures.
Oh, I got the wrong page up. I have the numbers for the first Avatar.
I mean, I can see them grossing into the 10 figures, into billions, but it's they can't judge it. Well, the problem is they're going to obviously judge box office based on ticket sales, but you're going to probably see a big spike in DVD sales because again, it's going to be for the people that they don't have 3 hours to kill. They can kill 3 hours at home,
but even that isn't much of a factor nowadays because of streaming.
Right.
So it's kind of which.
Well, it's Disney, isn't it? So it's going to be Disney Plus,
and they're gonna make a lot of money on streaming.
Yeah,
because with Disney Plus having the rights to it.
But so are more people going to join Disney Plus then to watch this?
I think you might see an up. Yeah, I think you're probably going to see a lot more people join.
I actually don't know if the reviews are going to affect this one as much. Although I will say early reviews from some people I've been seeing have been hyping it up a little bit. But I actually don't think that's going to be as much of a factor because I'm looking at the numbers from the first Avatar, and I'm actually looking at the dates. We almost see a mirror image of what they're doing now. First one came out December 18th. This one's coming out December 16th. It had a good run, but it had a huge plus 107% uptick around Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing's happening here. There's almost nothing as far as competition now. It scared everyone away. Plus, people have been talking box office has been kind of slow these past few weekends. Are people just kind of waiting? There are people like you and me and some of our viewers. We go to movies every week. We don't care. Yep. There are some people who just don't have the time and want to maybe just go every once in a while. So they were saving up for this moment.
A better movie, yeah.
Plus, I think it's going to be very similar. It'll make a decent amount, but Christmas weekend,
and it's a film. In theory, you could take the family to.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's
actiony, but not too violent.
A lot of the films out now, and it's not cheap to go to movies anymore.
No,
that's the unfortunate part of it. I mean, it's with tickets, food, popcorn, because I know everybody's got to get snacks while they're there. For a family of 4,
especially for a 3-hour movie,
right. Yeah,
you just need something to do.
Family of 4 tickets and concessions, you're looking close to $100. That's not cheap for anybody anymore. But if you're either going to see it or you're not. There's no weighing one way. Am I going to see it? Am I not going to see it? It's pretty much.
I don't think a lot of
going to see it or they're not.
I don't think a lot of people are going to be waiting on the review. I think at this point, especially considering box office has been dead last few weekends, a lot of people have determined I'm going to see this.
And you're going to see a lot of. You're going to see a lot of sold out theaters.
Yeah. But let's talk about a few other movies here just briefly, because yes, there are other movies coming out this weekend.
That's the most important.
None in theaters though. You can if you need to be told why. Picture, just think about it for a little bit. But coming out on Shudder, yes, it is Christmas time, but there are still scary movies out there.
That's right.
The Apology. This movie, it kind of almost, I think, asks, I want to say, a philosophical question, but with some scary elements to it. If you had the chance to approach someone who did you something severely wrong, what would you do? Would you take the high road? Or if it was like kind of no consequences, nobody knew what you did, would you take revenge kind of thing? At least that's the vibe I got from the trailer, because it seems like a woman here, her daughter goes missing. I don't know if they say murdered. She just
I don't know. I think it was just missing, I believe.
And then a guy approaches her like, well, what would you do if you knew who it was? Like, would you...
Oh, I'd call the cops.
Oh, would you really call the cops?
Like, no consequences? If you know who did it?
Like, would you do this or this? And I think that's an interesting question. We all have the easy answer we would like to say.
Yep.
I just want to know. That's all I want. Like, I would say, like, I'd be upset. I'd want to do harm to that person, but biggest thing for me is I'd want the answer of what happened. Yeah. And that's not always the case. Not everybody gets a chance for that. But so that'd be the biggest thing for me is I just want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know why you did it, what happened, and
how it happened. And if she was murdered, just tell me where she's at.
Yeah.
Just so I can find her and bring her home.
Yeah. Also coming out that same weekend, Bardo, and what was the rest of the title? It was
Bardo and many.
It was a fascination of collection of
and a handful
factual
of truths.
A
handful of truths.
Yeah, whatever. So the director who directed this, he's been kind of known for this before, of having a title of a movie that is just one word title, but there's like a whole bunch extra.
Yeah.
One of the ones that they talk about is Birdman, which I'm just going to say right off the bat, one of my favorite movies. Actually. Great movie. But like if you look at Birdman, it's like Birdman and the truthful exemption of like acting or something like that. It's like there's like a whole other sentence and a half to it. And looking at this trailer, it looks like he is kind of pulling a little bit from Birdman, a little bit from The Revenant, both greatly directed movies. I'm not really sure where this story is going.
I have no idea.
But it does look kind of fun.
It looks interesting. It looks very like surreal. Like you're here, and then it's like, oh, my fish, and then we're in the fish in the subway, and then we're at home, and there's water everywhere. It just looks
very
crazy.
Imaginative in that the main character is sort of daydreaming, but we're kind of seeing from his perspective where it seems real.
I kind of took it. Maybe he's having a battle of his ethics or something, because he makes him. If you watch the trailer, he's having all these. Illusions kind of putting him in awkward situations. Is there something that happened in his past?
Yeah.
That
don't know
makes him think this way.
Yeah.
It'll be cool.
Because you can tell he's having some self-inflection of trying to figure out, why is this happening to me?
Yeah. Yeah. But finally coming out this weekend, Nanny, Amazon Prime. Just another kind of creepy one, I guess I would say. Not a remake to the Nanny TV show, which honestly I think that would have been funnier, as you kind of said as we were about to watch the trailer.
It's just like you see everything get rebooted or get remade. So I'm thinking, okay, just hearing the word Nanny, obviously everybody thinks of the Nanny, the popular show. Clearly I was wrong, but
I think that would have been better, to be completely honest. Because, this one again had to do with almost like, do we want to call it hallucinations? Or I don't want to call this one daydreaming like it did the other one, but almost like that, I guess. Another kind of, actually, really, if you think about it, take certain story elements from The Apology, take certain story elements from Bardo, combine them, and you kind of got this movie.
That's a good way to put it.
You've got someone who's hallucinating and a missing child.
Maybe I'm missing something here, but didn't Andy Williams say it's the most wonderful time of the year, and yet you're seeing all these horror films come out?
It's true. That's true. I will say this trailer actually made me jump. And I don't jump at trailers, but there's a scene where the spider falls on her face, and I hate spiders. And that gave me the
information
willies.
Nick will not use against Ryan at some
Shouldn't have
point.
said that.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have brought that up.
This is why I don't answer any of your questions, is because now I know more of your weakness.
Just know, April Fool's comes around, I'd watch out if I were you.
I gotta watch out every day.
I'd wait much longer than April Fool's. But that is everything coming out this weekend. Let's talk about things we've seen in the past here. It's time for some number one recommends. Matt, you're our special guest. Why don't you kick us off here? I'm excited to hear about yours.
Well, I actually watched The Bronx Tale for the first time this past week. Really good movie. I learned a little bit about, because I didn't know how the background of it was being made. De Niro directed it, Robert De Niro, which I didn't realize he directed movies. I know he's obviously starred and produced in them, but I didn't realize he directed one. The main character, Sonny, is played by the man who wrote the screenplay, who wrote the play on Broadway after his one-man play. So he pretty much got to star in his own thing. It's a great movie. It's not your typical mobster movie in the aspect of you don't see a lot of violence. You do see some. There's still some killings in there, but you don't see your typical, when you think of Goodfellas, you don't see Joe Pesci just randomly shooting people.
Yeah.
You don't see in Casino, again, Joe Pesci just beating people up.
Yeah.
I mean, what's funny is Joe Pesci is in the movie, but you don't see him really beat anybody up. But you've traveled through the story with this kid, and De Niro is in it. He's not one of the stars. He's not one of those selfish directors that stars in his own movies. But he plays a dad who's trying to keep his son out of the gang life or the mob life, which is kind of surprising because he's a bus driver. And then you see the evolution of his son wanting to live that lifestyle. Even Sonny, who's the mafia lead or the mob leader, doesn't even want him in the mob. He's trying to teach him, live life you want. I'm teaching you the steps of the way through life, but just don't do what I do.
Yeah.
And it's a good movie. Like I said, it's just a different representation of what you think a mob movie is.
That's a good way to put it. I like that.
Yeah, we're shooting this a little bit earlier than usual, so I would usually have something, but unfortunately, the thing I was going to watch, I didn't have time to watch, so I'm going to skip my turn this week. Ryan, you know what? You had two. You were leaving me on pins and needles, so
I did.
Reveal to all of us, which one are you recommending this week?
This film, the show actually that I'm recommending this week, is called Wednesday. It is the new Netflix show on Netflix. Tim Burton directed a few episodes, and I think he produced the show. He was like a main driver behind it. Absolutely enjoyed watching this show. It has Tim Burton-esque written all over it. The writing was good. It keeps you guessing who the bad guy or the twist or the I don't want to say it without giving it away who the bad people are in the film or in the show. They do. I really liked it. It was fun to visit the Addams Family again. I haven't watched any Addams Family thing in years, but everybody knows who it is. Everybody knows the song. Everybody knows it. And it was just a very good take. I liked Jenna Ortega. That's her name, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really recognize her, but I looked and I was like, oh, I've seen you in a bunch of other things before. So that was pretty cool. But I recommend it. It's a good take on the Addams Family. And if you like Tim Burton style stuff, then you'll really enjoy it.
Anyways, that's going to do it for us here on this episode of Popcorn Bucket List. Special thanks to Matt Metzler. We're glad we can get you on here today. It was kind of touch and go there for a second. It was kind of last minute. But we're glad we got you on.
We beat the snowstorm, too.
Yeah, we beat the snowstorm, too.
Just say I don't live up to my bets.
Yeah, that's true. That bet we set was like months ago, and we finally got around to it. So,
should we make a bet for the next
Packers game? Do that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later. But if you have any of your own movie recommendations, as usual, let us know in the comments down below of the YouTube video. For myself, Matt Metzler, Ryan Meyerberg, we'd like to thank you so much for watching, and we will see you at Avatar: The Way of Water.